Most videos about Louisville, Kentucky show bourbon, horse racing, downtown apartments, and all the fun stuff. But after helping so many people relocate here, there are some things people genuinely love about Louisville, and there are also a few things buyers wish someone had warned them about before they moved. So in this video, I'm going to give you the honest truth about living in Louisville, Kentucky. The pros, the cons, the things nobody really talks about, and what it actually feels like to live here day to day. So if you're thinking about moving to Louisville, you can decide whether this city is really the right fit for you. If we haven't met yet, my name is Alex Degg, and my team and I help people move to Louisville and Southern Indiana every single week. And one thing I've learned is this: the people who end up the happiest after relocating are usually the ones who understood both the good and the bad before they moved. Because Louisville is a great city for a lot of people, but it's definitely not perfect. And honestly, every city has trade-offs. So let's start with one of the biggest reasons people are moving here in the first place. One of the biggest advantages of living in Louisville is that compared to a lot of major cities, your money still goes pretty far here, especially if you're moving from places like Chicago, Denver, Nashville, Austin, or parts of the Northeast and West Coast. For example, the median home price in Louisville is still dramatically lower than cities like Nashville or Denver, sometimes by hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the neighborhood and price you're comparing. And that's one of the first things relocation buyers notice. A lot of people moving here are shocked at what they can actually afford compared to where they're coming from. Instead of stretching their budget for a small home or condo, they're sometimes able to get more square footage, a yard, a garage, better schools nearby, or simply a lot more breathing room financially, and even a basement for some people. And it's not just housing either. Restaurants, parking, entertainment, and even everyday living expenses often feel much more manageable here compared to larger area metros. Now, Louisville definitely isn't as cheap as it was 5 or 10 years ago. Prices have gone up here too. But compared to many cities around the country, people still feel like they can maintain a strong quality of life without feeling financially squeezed all the time. And for families especially, that quality of life to cost ratio becomes one of the biggest reasons they choose Louisville. Now, one thing that surprised a lot of people after moving here, Louisville is much more spread out than they expected. And honestly, I think this is something almost nobody really talks about in relocation videos. People see downtown Louisville online and assume the entire city feels dense and connected. But in reality, most people here drive everywhere. And depending on where you live, getting across town can absolutely take some time, especially if you're using 264 or 265 during heavier traffic hours. A lot of relocation buyers are surprised that going from one side of the city to the other can easily turn into a 30-minute plus drive depending on traffic, construction, bridges, or just the time of day. And if you've lived here for a while, you already know Louisville loves road construction. The other thing is different parts of Louisville feel very different from each other. You can go from a walkable, older neighborhood with restaurants and coffee shops everywhere to a suburban area with larger homes, newer developments, and completely different lifestyles within a short drive. So neighborhood choice matters a lot here, honestly more than buyers initially realize. Two people can both say they live in Louisville and have completely different day-to-day experiences. One thing people consistently say after moving here is that Louisville feels less stressful than larger cities. The pace is slower, people tend to be friendlier, traffic does exist, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but compared to major metro areas, daily life often feels more manageable. And honestly, one thing I personally like about Louisville is that people here actually seem to enjoy slowing down a little. You'll see people hanging out at local coffee shops for hours, walking around one of the many parks that we have, sitting outside at restaurants, or just genuinely taking advantage of the lifestyle here. And for a lot of people moving from a bigger city, that's actually a huge upgrade. You still have restaurants, sports, events, nightlife, parks, shopping, and plenty to do, but without feeling like everything is constantly overcrowded or chaotic. Louisville kind of sits in this middle ground where it's big enough to have real city amenities, but small enough that life still feels approachable and manageable. And honestly, that balance is sometimes hard to find, especially for remote workers or families who are prioritizing quality of life over just chasing the biggest possible city. Now let's talk about the weather for a second, because this is another thing people don't fully understand until they actually live here. Louisville gets all 4 seasons, but sometimes it feels like all 4 seasons happen in the same week. The summers can get pretty humid, winters are usually manageable compared to northern states, but they can feel gray and gloomy at times. And allergy season is very real here. Didn't used to have allergies until I moved here. If you've lived in Kentucky before, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. And honestly, weather probably won't be the reason someone doesn't move here, but it's definitely one of those things people mention after relocating, especially buyers coming from places with more mild climates or predictable climates. One thing I personally think Louisville does really well is that the neighborhoods all have distinct personalities. And that's important because different buyers are looking for completely different lifestyles. If someone wants walkability, restaurants, nightlife, and character, they may love areas like the Highlands or Nulu. If they want more suburban convenience, shopping, and central access, they may lean towards St. Matthews. Someone wants larger lots, newer homes, more space, they might prefer Prospect, Middletown, or parts of Oldham County. And then you also have Southern Indiana, which a lot of relocation buyers end up loving because you can sometimes get more home for the money while still being close to Louisville. And honestly, this is why I always tell people not to judge Louisville based on just one area, because every part of the city feels different. Some areas feel historic and urban, some feel suburban and family focused, some feel quieter and more rural, and finding the right fit matters way more than just picking a house online. Now, if you're moving from somewhere like Chicago, New York, DC, or even parts of Atlanta, you'll probably notice pretty quickly that Louisville is not a highly public transit focused city. Most people do drive here. Now, certain neighborhoods absolutely have walkability. Areas like the Highlands, Nulu, Crescent Hill, or parts of St. Matthews can feel very walkable day to day depending on where you live. You can walk to restaurants, coffee shops, bars, the parks, and local businesses pretty easily in some of those areas. But what surprises some people is that the walkability usually stays inside the neighborhood itself, not necessarily between neighborhoods. So while your immediate area may feel very walkable, getting across town usually still means getting in the car. And overall, Louisville is definitely more car dependent than many larger metro areas. One misconception people sometimes have about Louisville is that it's going to feel boring. And honestly, people end up surprised by how much there is to do here. The restaurant scene here is really strong. There are festivals, concerts, sports, bourbon culture, local events, parks, outdoor spaces, and a pretty active community feel overall. And what I hear from a lot of relocation clients is this: Louisville feels big enough. Not overwhelmingly huge, but not small and boring either. And for many people, that's exactly what they're looking for. You can still have access to city amenities without feeling like you're constantly fighting massive crowds, insane traffic, or an ultra high cost lifestyle. So overall, is Louisville a perfect city? No. Honestly, no city is. Try and find one that is. But for the right person, Louisville offers a really strong combination of affordability, lifestyle, character, location, and quality of life. And I think the people who end up the happiest here are usually the ones who choose the right neighborhood and come in with realistic expectations. Because if you understand the trade-offs up front, Louisville can be an incredible place to live. If you're thinking about moving to Louisville or Southern Indiana, my team and I help people relocate here every single week. So whether you're still researching neighborhoods, comparing areas, or planning a move sometime in the next few months, feel free to reach out using the contact information below. We're always happy to help you figure out which part of Louisville actually fits your lifestyle and goals best. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe because we put out new videos all the time about living in Louisville real estate, neighborhoods, relocation tips, and what it's really like to live here. And I'll see you in the next video.